Now that's original.
Hello there, Acorns, and welcome back to Original Thursday. Before you say, hey, wait a minute, that thumbnail lied to me, let me tell you that you will hear Corey singing in this video on one of Pap's original songs called Hell to Shun. But before that happens, I want to share a few little things with you, and then I'll kind of come back to what you're going to hear in this video as far as Pap's original song. The first thing that I want to mention is that tomorrow, Friday, September 19th, 2025, Mr. Doyle Dykes will be performing at Fellowship of the Hills Church in Blairsville, Georgia. So any Acorns that are watching this that are in kind of East Tennessee, North Georgia, Western North Carolina, just wanted to let you know. And I looked into the tickets for that through bands in town. I think that's where I saw the tickets. But with it being a church, they are offering free admission. So if you're, like I said, if you're anywhere near where I am, this is a golden opportunity for you to go and hear one of the greatest guitar players ever, and that's Mr. Doyle Dykes at Fellowship of the Hills this Friday, September 19th, 2025. In Blairsville, Georgia. I wanted to mention that. The next thing that I wanted to talk with you about is something that I am just enjoying tremendously, and I thought some of you all might enjoy, and that is this wonderful book about Mr. Jimmy Capps, another one of the greatest guitarists of all time, called The Man in Back. And the reason it's called that clever little title is because Mr. Jimmy Capps backed so many famous singers, and he was back there doing his thing, kind of back behind him. So that's why he chose to call it The Man in Back. And this was actually recommended to me by Doyle Dykes, and he didn't steer me wrong. Jimmy Capps was also kind of already one of my heroes because of him playing with the Louvin Brothers, me seeing him on TV, seeing him on the Grand Ole Opry. Just such an amazing guitarist. So I was, as soon as Doyle made that recommendation, of course I was eager to read it. Now, a lot of our Acorns have commented that they really enjoy reading the notes in my videos. Now, some Acorns, I can tell they don't even know that the notes are there. And I can kind of see why, especially if you are watching one of our videos on your phone. And I'm going to come back and tell you a lot more about the book and why I recommend it. But I just want to show you something real quick. So there's a video, I think that's Beautiful Brown Eyes, that I put up back on Tuesday for Old Timey Tuesday. So it really looks like there's no information there. But right here, really small, if you click on more, then now you see there's the beginning of the description. Now that's still nowhere near all of it. You have to click on more one more time, and then boom, look at all that information about the song. And I hope this is showing up on the camera. I'm not so sure that it is with the brightness of the phone, but you can see how you can scroll, and there's a lot of information about that song. Who wrote it, when it was first recorded, different versions. It talks about who had the biggest hits, who climbed the highest in the charts with it. So anyway, in case you didn't know, and I can tell some Acorns don't know that all that information is there each time I upload a song. I can tell because they may ask a question that was answered in those notes. And that doesn't bother me. I can quickly answer it for them again by replying to their comment. But a lot of folks really, sometimes they enjoy reading those notes as much or even more than hearing the song. So I wanted to mention that that's there in pretty much every video. Some background, some anecdotes, things like that go along with sort of the background of each song. And if you are one of those Acorns who has really enjoyed reading those notes, then you would absolutely love this book. And I'll put a link in the description below where you can order your own copy, because that's what you really get in this book. You get Jimmy Capps' musical journey, and he so many famous singers, songwriters, musicians weave their lives kind of were woven through Jimmy's life, and they cross paths in so many ways. And I loved it. I would have loved the book anyway, but I loved it in particular because there's so much in here about the Louvens. Now, there's also a lot of wonderful pictures of Jimmy and different groups that he played with down through the years. You know, pictures when he was in the Army, performing for the armed services as a musician, all that. But where was I going with that? Oh, if you are a Louvin Brothers fan, and I've actually converted many of our Acorns into Louvin Brothers fans. Some Acorns who'd never even heard of the Louvin Brothers have started and going to listening to their music, and they've thanked me for turning them on to the Louvins. Well, I know, or I have, I've read so many books about the Louvin Brothers. I've talked with Charlie quite a few times, spent the entire day with him one time, and I kind of felt like I knew just about everything there was to know about the Louvins, yet I still learned quite a few things about the Louvin Brothers through Jimmy's book. And then there's, of course, the book's a lot more than that. But if you are interested in the Louvin Brothers, that's definitely a reason to get this book. I'll give you some wild examples of things that I never knew. We were not too long ago on this channel, we were talking about Willie Nelson. Well, I never knew that Willie Nelson played bass for the Louvin Brothers. How cool is that? And I'm almost tempted to kind of tell you the little story that goes along with that, and how he wound up doing that, or why he wound up doing that, and about his interaction with Jimmy Capps as the bass player for the Louvin Brothers. But I'll leave that so you can read it in the story. There's so many. I'm only on about page 61 in this book, so I'm maybe about 35% through the book. But there's so many stories that I've told Granny about, just because they're funny stories or they're just fascinating stories. And another reason I love reading this book, and you see on the back, there's Jimmy with his wife Michelle, who is still living. Jimmy passed away in 2020. His first wife, Anne, died tragically after they'd been married about 47 years. She passed away from a brain aneurysm. But he had a second wonderful part of his life there with Michelle. And Pap and Granny loved watching Michelle and Jimmy on Larry's Country Diner on RFD. I did too, but during those years I was so busy with being a principal, I didn't get to watch near as much as they did. But they loved watching them on there, her great harmony singing. Pap loved kind of the persona of Jimmy on there as the sheriff on that show. And of course, Pap was very familiar with Jimmy's guitar playing. But there's so many just cool stories. People like Ferlin Husky, Little Jimmy Dickens, Jimmy C. Newman, Roy Acuff, Grandpa Jones, just all these folks, Merle Haggard, and George Morgan, Lori Morgan. And one thing that's really fascinating is in reading this book, you see how all those folks, they're, even though they may seem larger than life and they're kind of icons, country music icons, they're just regular people. They're just normal people. And it's so cool to hear about their kindness to each other, their generosity. Like Slim Whitman, for example. It's a really cool story about Slim and how generous he was and how he put others first. I always thought he was just awesome for his incredible singing. But that story, I like Slim Whitman even more now. I could go on and on about this book. And even if you're not that into kind of country music history and behind-the-scenes things with famous country performers and artists, it's also a very cool book just from the standpoint of reading about someone whose dreams came true. And, Jimmy started off in just a very modest home and background, and he had dreams and aspirations, and he realized them all, through hard work and determination. He went through a lot of lean years. That's another thing you learn about a lot of the famous country legends, is that most of them really were not that well off financially. They all went through very hard times and kept doing what they were doing primarily for the love of music, not for the fact that they were making a very comfortable living. Their living arrangements a lot of times were very, very challenging. But anyway, get this book. I promise you won't regret it. I'm reading it at every chance that I get. So I wanted to tell you about Doyle's concert. I want to tell you about this book that I absolutely loved. I'm even going to try to write to Mrs. Capps, Jimmy's widow, and thank her, and just let her know how much I enjoy reading this book. It's just, I've learned so many things that I didn't know. Another thing I learned about the Louvin brothers is that they had a guitar player after Chet Atkins. I only knew about Chet Atkins, Jimmy Capps, Chet Atkins, Paul Yandell, and Chet Atkins, Paul Yandell, Jimmy Capps, in that order. I never knew that in between Chet Atkins and Paul Yandell, there was another guitar player called Chester Reason, Reason. In those days, a lot of times, all you got on the record was the name of the main act, the stars, and the song titles, maybe who wrote the songs and how long the songs were. You didn't get, so-and-so's playing bass, and so-and-so's playing the drums, and so-and-so's playing the guitar. So I have probably heard a lot of great guitar playing from Chester Reason without knowing without knowing he even existed. So I'm going to do more research into him. It's kind of funny. Jimmy said that Ira called him Chester for no reason. That was his way of teasing him, or his nickname. Just so many tidbits of information in there that I didn't know about. And then some things even that I did know about through other books, I get a different perspective and in more detail here. Okay. Now I'm finally going to stop talking about this wonderful book and kind of move on. Here's another thing I'll share with you real quick before I get into sharing or letting you know how I'm going to share Pap's song with you today. I just thought you might think this is funny. A buddy of mine made this caricature, or rather he had it made, this caricature of me. And of all the caricatures I've ever seen, this is one of the most accurate. It's signed by the artist here, but I can't make it out. It's Jamie something. I don't know. But whoever Jamie is, he did a great job of kind of representing me. And my buddy is so nice. Here's a picture that he took of me that he used to send to the artist. And there I am. That's the picture that he sent to the artist who did the caricature. So when you look at that caricature, or you look at that coffee mug, and then you look at the caricature, pretty accurate, I think. Maybe for Hickory Stand, we all need to get some caricatures like this made. One for Jamie Shook and Caleb Dykes and Perry Stalkup. But I just thought y'all might get a kick out of seeing that. I wanted to share it real quick, and I appreciate my buddy Steve Simons who had that made. So the song that I'm sharing with you today, like I said, Pap wrote it. It's called Hell to Shun. It's hard to know when he wrote this song. I would say probably in the early 80s or late 70s, because I believe he recorded it once with Ray and Uncle Henry, possibly on the Little White Church album. And there were like 2 or 3 iterations of that album, but on one of them I'm pretty sure it was on there. And then he recorded it with Ray and me and Perry again on this album, this cassette. I believe There's a Heaven, and I've talked about this cassette before. Now, when I was working on this CD, actually it wasn't this CD, I'm sorry. It was the Live to Never Die CD, which I don't have in my hands to show you, but most of y'all have seen it before. It's the most recent CD that I put out, and it's a collection of original songs from Pap that Pap wrote. And when I was working on that CD, I was wanting to include Hell to Shun on that CD, and I just wasn't satisfied with. I did a couple of different versions, and you're going to hear both of those versions today. And I just wasn't satisfied with either one of them, and it kind of didn't make the cut for that CD. But I still have, of course, the master recordings. And in the second one that I did, Corey sang with me. She sang harmony. And I feel like we came very close to getting it right when we sang it together. And I'm going to go back and work on a few things and then maybe release that as a single or on a future CD with Corey helping me do the song. So today, the very first thing you'll hear is a studio recording that I did by myself in the key of G. I wasn't satisfied with it. You'll hear that, and then you'll hear the version that I did with Corey, where we moved it on up to the key of A, which made it extremely high for me, but Corey is such a high singer that if I'm going to sing with her and she's going to sing the harmony, then I have to sing the lead beyond where it's comfortable for me. Otherwise, it's like she's bogged down because her voice is so high. So I moved it on up to A and we did it together. You'll hear that. That'll be the second version that you hear. And then the last version that you hear will be the version with Pap and Ray, which is, it's a little bit on the rough side and it's got a ton of reverb, and it was kind of weak or low volume. I boosted it up the best I could for this. But Pap and Ray, it was still a work in progress. In fact, you'll notice when they sang it, they sang Hell's, Hell apostrophe S, as in a contraction. Hell is to shun. Heavens, Heaven apostrophe S, heaven is to gain. That's the way they sang it. Hell's to shun, heavens to gain. Now later, when Pap would continue working on all his songs, and later he realized, let me just smooth that up and get rid of these apostrophes, and he just sang hell to shun, heaven to gain. And I think that's a big improvement to the song, even though I know that's going to cause me some aggravation when I go to copyright the song here in the next day or two. This recording was copyrighted, but the song itself was not copyrighted separately, which is what I'm going to do. And those different versions of how it's worded, like I say, it's going to be a little bit aggravating. It's the exact same song. It's just been tweaked and improved by getting rid of those apostrophes. This is a theme that Pap focused on in other songs and in a lot of just his conversation and his philosophy. And he would focus on things that are universal to everyone. For example, in the song on the Live to Never Die CD, actually that very song, Live to Never Die, it touches on that. It says, I believe it's in the opening verse. Let's see. Oh, it seems to me, it's plain to see, since long, long ago, our knowledge has been increased as we go to and fro. But there are things that just won't change. The plain and simple truth: we live, yet we die. I misquoted the part leading up to that, but it's the idea of, even though a lot of things change in society, in technology, in life, in lifestyles, and everything around us, that is one thing that does not change. We all live and then we die. Now, we die different ways. We have lives that are different lengths, but it's appointed unto all of us once to die. And no one can argue with that, right? Even if someone's an atheist and an unbeliever, they can't argue with the fact that we all die. That's a universal thing. So in this song, Hell to Shun, it's taking what Pat believed and what the Bible teaches, and what Jesus said when he was teaching, is that we all are facing eternity. And like Pap says in the song, it doesn't matter if you're rich and famous or if you're poor, if you're an unknown person, if you're anywhere in between. We all have heaven to gain and hell to shun. Those are the two sort of options there after this life. And it's a very hard song to sing. In some ways, I guess you could say it's kind of a blunt song, which might turn off some people. They might even see the song as harsh, but I think it is one of the best songs that he wrote, which is saying a lot out of the, close to 60 songs. So I do hope to go back and improve upon that recording with Corey, and then one day release it, where people can download it and they can buy it on a CD and stuff like that, if people are still even buying CDs. So thank you for listening to all of this. Remember, if you're in this area, if you're in close driving distance, go see and hear Doyle Dykes tomorrow. Get your copy of The Man in Back. It's an awesome book, so enjoyable, so fascinating. It's made me laugh. It's made me on the verge of tears many times, laughing and on the verge of crying in these 61 pages that I've been reading. And with that, I'll shut up, and then you can hear these 3 versions of Pap's original song, Hell to Shun.
The rich, the poor, the great, the small, the same for one and all. Regardless of our wealth, our fame, hell to shun and heaven to gain. People choose their own destiny. Some believe there's no eternity. You may not believe, yet it still remains hell to shun, heaven to gain. The rich, the poor, the great, the small, the same for one and all. Regardless of our wealth or fame, hell to shun and heaven to gain. Satan has his prophets who lie, and the truth they strongly deny. But the Word of God clearly proclaims hell to shun, heaven to gain. The rich, the poor, the great and the small, it's the same for one and for all. For regardless of our wealth or fame, there's hell to shun and heaven to gain. Hell to shun, heaven to gain. The rich, the poor, the great, the small, the same for one and all. Regardless of our wealth, our fame, hell to shun and heaven to gain. People choose their own destiny. Some believe there is no eternity. You may not believe, yet it still remains hell to shun, heaven to gain. The rich, the poor, the great, the small, the same for one and all. Regardless of our wealth, our fame, hell to shine and heaven to gain. Satan has his prophets who lie, and the truth they strongly deny. But the word of God clearly proclaims hell to shun, heaven to gain. The rich, the poor, the great, the small, the same for one and all. Regardless of our wealth, our fame, hell to shine and heaven to gain. Hell to shine, heaven to gain. The rich, the poor, the great, the small, the same for one and all. Regardless of your wealth or fame, hell's to shine and heaven's to gain. People choose their own destiny. Some believe that there is no eternity. You may not believe, but it still remains hell's to shun, heaven's to gain. The rich, the poor, the great, the small, the same for one and all. Regardless of your wealth or fame, hell's to shine and heaven's to gain. Satan has his prophets who lie, and the truth they strongly deny. But the word of God loudly proclaimed hell's to shun, heaven's to gain. The rich, the poor, the great, the small, the same for one and all. Regardless of your wealth or fame, hell's to shine